What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have our second mock draft here. Second straight week of doing this. Super excited to get into this one. Today I do have a little cheat sheet here. Mock draft that I was working on yesterday. So we'll be a little more organized this time and a little less yapping, but real quick. Go White Sox. Gotta represent here. Uh, back to losing games to start the season, but hey, we're having some more fun this year. Team feels a little bit different. Anyways, though, let's get into this mock draft. You got the Raiders selecting first. For me, and probably for everyone who does these seriously, for me, this is Fernando Mendoza. Every time, it just makes too much sense and exciting player to hopefully build around for the future of the Las Vegas Raiders franchise. And yeah, Fernando Mendoza. At number two, the Jets, it's going to be Orville Reese still. I just think you're looking at a potential elite edge rusher in the NFL who can also play off-ball linebacker in college, but as I'll say many times, he's probably going to be drafted as a pure edge rusher, I'd imagine. We'll see how that goes, but regardless, you're getting a dominant force on the defensive end of the football. And then third overall, the Cardinals. A few spots you could go here. This is one of the more interesting picks, I feel like. I think Sonny Styles is definitely a potential pick that you can make here. People obviously went with Jeremiah Love quite a bit before free agency, and I don't think that's fully off the board, but I feel like it's a bit less likely now. You have Tyler Algier added to the running back room, and they have a few guys in their running back room who are capable of being at least second running backs. So I just don't think Jeremiah Love makes the most sense anymore at third overall. Or just really for the Cardinals in general. I wouldn't rule out a Ruben Bain or David Bailey at this point. I think both of them are absolutely just they're forces on the defensive side of the ball, and I think they're both potentially worthy of being a third overall pick. They probably make a little bit more sense, or not more sense, but they're probably better players than Spencer Fano or Francis Marinoa, who I'll probably end up going with Spencer Fano today. I went with Marinoa in my last mock draft on the channel. But yeah, I think usually this is just an offensive tackle spot for me, and honestly, I'm going to keep doing that. I don't think edge rusher is off the board, like I said, but I just think the Cardinals have a really desperate need at tackle right now, and Spencer Fano, he could be one of the best tackles of this class. And third overall feels a little bit high, but at the same time, I understand how high some tackles can usually go, and I'm not capable of doing trades in this. So maybe if they do want to go with a tackle, this is a spot where you trade down, but again, we're not capable of doing trades in this. So for the Tennessee Titans, last time it was Jeremiah Love. I definitely think that's a possibility, and I don't hate that at all. In fact, I think that's really exciting. You get your young quarterback and young offense, potential superstar, and just a big piece of that offense that would be. But I also just wouldn't rule out Ruben Bain or David Bailey. In fact, today the pick's going to be Ruben Bain. He ended up finally giving us something to look at this offseason with his pro day. And I think he's a really exciting, dominant player who hopefully, the measurables don't matter too much, and he can just translate his play style really well to the NFL because his strength and his moves are just incredible. The arm length is the only concern, of course, but some guys are able to win even despite having the shorter arm lengths in the league. So I think Ruben Bain for the Tennessee Titans makes a lot of sense at fourth overall, and I think he's a player definitely worthy of being a top 5 pick in this draft. For the New York Giants, Jeremiah Love for some people is a consideration. For me, I'm not thinking about it too much. I don't think it makes a ton of sense. And a receiver is something that's definitely not off the board if you want to go Carnell Tate. Maybe it's a little early for some people. Sonny Styles is definitely possible. Last mock draft on the channel, I did end up going with Sonny Styles. Today, I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. I think he could be a really good wide receiver 2 option for Jackson Dart. You get Malik Neighbors coming back from the ACL tear, and Carnell Tate in the wide receiver 2 spot. That is a dynamic duo. That could be the next, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins type of duo, and Jackson Dart. With that offense, the sky's the limit. We saw the Bengals do something similar, of course, with taking Chase, even though they already had Higgins. I think it's kind of flipped here, of course, because I think Malik Neighbors is your wide receiver 1, and Tate is probably receiver 2. Again, maybe high for some people, but I think that's a really, really exciting option that I'm going to explore today, given that we went with Sonny Styles last time. And then for Cleveland, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some holes to fill here. The whole offensive line just about needs an upgrade. And obviously, you could go after receiver to give Shedeur a target. But now that Carnell Tate's gone, I'm really not looking at that. And I think we stick with tackle just like we did last draft. Francis Mauigoa is definitely a possibility, but today I'm going to go with Monroe Freeling. Get him way up the board here at 6th overall. And I think this is probably the highest he goes, and I think it's very possible. I expect some tackles to go high this draft. That's usually how these drafts go. The tackle spot is very valuable. And Monroe Freeling is a left tackle who will likely be able to play left tackle at the NFL level with his arm length. And I think that is a great pick for Cleveland. 6 overall, a little bit high, but maybe you are finding a really good tackle in Monroe Freeling. For the Commanders here, I mean, this is honestly a tough choice to make, given that we've got Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, and David Bailey still on the board. I think if you're taking the best player available, it's probably Jeremiah Love, but I think Sonny Styles is just a little bit more intriguing for me right now. For the Commanders, I think he can lead this defense, and for now he'll be under the wing of Bobby Wagner, but obviously down the road this is going to be a phenomenal selection, and I think you're getting an excellent player out of Sonny Styles, so that'd be pretty fun if he goes to Washington. As for the Saints, I believe last time we went with Ruben Bain. We either went with Ruben Bain or David Bailey. David Bailey's still on the board here, and it's tempting to take that, but I think I'm going to get Caleb Downs off the board here at 8th overall. He's definitely a player who should go in the top 10 here, and I think, maybe he could fall to Cincinnati if this doesn't end up happening. But, yeah, I think Caleb Downs, the Saints could use another safety. I don't think they're done filling that need yet, and I think Caleb Downs, I mean, he obviously does that for you, but he's a game wrecker, and I just love Caleb Downs. His style of play is awesome. He's a great leader and a guy you'd want on your team, provides that winning culture, and he's bringing some absolute heat to the Saints defense as they kind of try to exit the rebuild here within the next few years. For the Kansas City Chiefs, definitely a few options here. David Bailey's definitely an intriguing one. That would absolutely work. You could convince me on that. There's not really a receiver that I love here. I think if you were to go receiver at 9th overall, it has to probably be Carnell Tate. And with him being off the board, I think you wait until your 29th overall pick there to address receiver. So other than those needs, I think corner is easily their highest. In fact, it's probably higher than receiver here or edge rusher, just because you trade away your best 2 corners over the offseason, and you lost Josh Williams as well. So Mansour Delane being here, it's too attractive for me to pass up on. I know I do this a lot now, but this is just one of those picks that makes too much sense to not make each time, even if it gets a little boring. So Mansour Delaney to Kansas City, and you're getting a potential great future cornerback. And honestly, right now, I mean, it's not like they're not a contender anymore just because they're drafting ninth overall. They absolutely are a contender still, and Mansour Delaney makes an immediate impact probably. And yeah, you just have to be really happy with that. For the Bengals, you could already see me kind of hinting towards it there. It's going to be David Bailey. If he falls to 10th overall, I think you have to take him there. Edge rusher, maybe one of their biggest needs still. Long arms. His lack of versatility is maybe his only weakness, and it's questionable run defense. But if you get him 10th overall there and you go ahead and develop him, I really like that. For the Dolphins, definitely a couple options here. Jeremiah Love's still on the board, by the way, past the top 10. Interesting. I think Dylan Thieneman is definitely on the board at this point. I think if you were to go wide receiver, again, Carnell Tate's a little more intriguing than Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson if you're going to take somebody here towards the top of the board. And if you wait until pick 30, there's going to be some interesting options. So I know you probably don't want to wait if you're a Dolphins fan. Sometimes receivers a little bit more fun to take, but they really need help at left tackle, I believe. Francis Mauigoa is not on left tackle though, so that is my that's where I run into a bit of a concern actually. So that is interesting. Okay, we're gonna change things up then. I had Francis Mauigoa earlier, but today I'm gonna go with Dylan Thieneman at 11th overall. Just adding a really solid player there to your secondary, and probably gonna enter a rebuilding phase here. So just adding Dylan Thieneman, it's a really good pickup there at 11th overall. And again, you're gonna come back and circle around 30th overall, where no safety at the caliber of Dylan Thieneman or Emmanuel McNeil-Warren will be available. You could go corner here, but Jermod McCoy, it feels like he's gonna drop a little bit lower at this point, and yeah, Dylan Thieneman just works a little too well. Now for the Cowboys, Jeremiah Love still being on the board. It's gonna be easy pick there. We're gonna go and throw him into that offense. Dynamic running back, super exciting fit for them. And then you're going to use the rest of your draft to address your areas of concern on the defensive side of the ball, like corner, like safety, like linebacker, defensive interior, and even edge rusher potentially. So just their entire defense. But for the Rams here, I think there's a couple options. This team doesn't necessarily have a lot of holes. Wide receiver is not obviously a hole, but it is an option to go with Mekhi Lemon, with Devontae Adams, kind of getting up there in age, and Mekhi Lemon potentially playing a little bit different of a role than Puka Nacua, and obviously not having that size, he's probably not going to be your receiver one. So Mekhi Lemon does make a lot of sense. Kenyon Sadiq's an interesting one because I've heard a lot of people go with tight end here lately. I think it just makes a little bit more sense to go Mekhi Lemon because you don't need a tight end. I mean, it's not like you desperately need a third receiver right now if you're LA, but tight end wise, you just have, obviously you already have a lot of depth already at tight end there, but again, no one with the capability probably of Kenyon Sadiq and that superstar receiving ability, but Mekhi Lemon just feels like it makes a little more sense. For the Ravens, Veguiwane is your ideal pick here usually, but if Francis Mauigoa is still on the board here, it's kind of hard to pass up on because he can play that interior role, and he's probably just a little bit more of a better prospect than Veguiwane. So if Francis Mauigoa falls to 14, Ravens probably take him. For Tampa Bay, you've got some needs. Tight end, not really one anymore with K-Dot and extended. Guard, it's possible. Corner, possible. I think I'm gonna go edge rusher here. I think you need help. And we're gonna go with Keldrick Folk. Probably not gonna be an elite pass rusher, but you could develop him into a star player still. And I feel like that's the type the Bucks usually have on that defensive line. So yeah, Keldrick Folk kind of fits that Todd Bowles defense that I usually think of. As for the Jets at 16th overall, we went with Arvell Reese earlier. This means, wide receiver on the board potentially. You've got another early second round pick too, so keep that part in mind. Corner is definitely an interesting one because Jermod McCoy still on the board. I feel like this is definitely the range he could go now. He could go earlier, he could go later. Today we're going to go Jermod McCoy to the Jets. I think they're being a young rebuilding team, being years away from contention. Jermod McCoy and his ACL tear, having a year or two to kind of try to get past that and get back to true playing form because he hasn't played in over a year. It's going to make the most sense for the Jets if anybody's going to kind of take him in the first part of the first round. For the Lions, tackle is definitely possible here, though I don't know who I love. I mentioned Caden Proctor last time, but I just do feel like that's a little bit high still. If you want interior, Vegiwane is still here. I think that there's no linebacker available. I think edge rusher is definitely still an area of where you can improve on as of right now. And I think Akeem Mesidor still being here, it makes sense to go ahead and pick him up. Solid edge rusher, a guy who's going to be able to come in and make an immediate impact on a team that can go out and contend with these next few seasons, next 2 or 3 years, where Akeem Mesidor is probably going to be in his prime in his NFL career, being an older prospect. With the Minnesota Vikings on the board, I usually look to corner, safety, defensive line here. And just looking at who's available, it feels like I did go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren last time. Avion Terrell is an interesting one. I do like Avion Terrell. And just to not take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren a second straight time. Also, I wouldn't rule out one of these guys, by the way. I think Peter Woods is the most likely to go here. It's kind of preference based. The corner is probably a little bit more valuable. So I probably keep that in mind when making this pick. So that's why we're going to go Avion Terrell instead of, say, Peter Woods there. For the Carolina Panthers, this is potentially another spot where you could get a Peter Woods off the board. Other than that, Kenyon Sadiq is available. I did go that last time, so I'll probably try to stay away from that. And we'll probably just... Actually, you could use help at left tackle. So say you like Caleb Lomu enough to try to take him at 19th overall. That's very possible, honestly. So is that where we go? We're just going to go with Peter Woods. I think he can make an impact on that defense. You need help on the interior. So yeah, it just makes sense. The Cowboys. This is their second pick of the round, of course. We went with Jeremiah Love earlier. If he falls to 12th and you pick him up there, great. In real life, that's probably not happening. You're probably gonna need to trade up if you want to go out and get a guy like Jeremiah Love in the first round. I don't see him falling to 12th overall. I just don't. Even though that's how it turned out today. Now, where do you go here? You could look at corner here. There's not anybody I like for if you're going to take him at 20th overall. And honestly, I think Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I complimented him last video. I'll say the same things. He's just a great competitor and somebody who could really set the culture of that defense potentially. And you're getting a really good player at 20th overall. Despite playing that safety role, that's not valued super high usually. But we did have Dylan Thieneman and Caleb Downs go basically top 10. So that's interesting. Got some high-end safeties this draft class. For the Steelers, I like to go tackle here. I think Caleb Lomu can be your future left tackle potentially. Just Darnell Wright is just not good, respectfully. And probably get an immediate upgrade with Caleb Lomu, at least hopefully. As for the Chargers, we got some guys falling like Kenyon Sadiq, Vega Ioane, Jordan Tyson, interesting one. If Vega Ioane falls to the Chargers, he's coming right off the board, and they're not thinking twice about it. They really need help with the interior offensive line, and Vega Ioane is exactly that and better. For the Eagles, let's see who I had. Okay, so the Eagles, it's interesting. Receiver, I don't see that as a huge concern until AJ Brown's officially gone. And even so, sometimes receivers not as valuable, and like nowadays. I mean, look at the Bills, for example. I know they haven't really won anything, but they're able to win their division consistently, even though they didn't last year. Just be a 10 plus win team and usually win playoff games despite not having a super deep receiving core. So for a team like Philadelphia, who has Saquon Barkley, has Jalen Hurts' legs, I think it makes a little, it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense to me that their top need is listed at receiver, even if this is assuming AJ Brown is hitting the market. We're going to go with Max Ihenacho out of Arizona State, who's an interesting prospect, could have some high value potentially, could be a really great player. Eagles need help at tackle. Max Ihenacho has pretty good size. I think you're adding some help in the trenches, which is what the Eagles would love to do, I'm assuming. Monroe Freeling was the first pick for the Cleveland Browns. Do you go with receiver? Jordan Tyson's still available, so that's an interesting option. I think it is not too far off the board, but he does have the injury concerns, of course. I think I'm going to go with... this is kind of a tough one, actually. We'll go with Denzel Boston. Maybe not the most exciting pick, but just giving Shedeur Sanders kind of a big target to go after, who showed in college that he can catch pretty much anything at contested rates and whatnot. Things are probably going to be different in the NFL. We'll see how he turns out as a player, given he showed some struggles with getting separation. So that play style doesn't always translate super well. But we're going to try that today with Denzel Boston. For the Chicago Bears, defensive line and safety is the biggest area of concern. It's not going to be a safety at this point with AJ Halsey being the best guy still available. I do like him. He's not a first round talent, though, if we're being honest. And then defensive line, you have basically everybody except Peter Woods. This is an interesting defensive line class. I feel like you can make an argument for like 5 defensive interior linemen who could be your number one. We're going to go with Kristen Miller today out of Georgia. Very good prospect. It's an area of concern for them. We don't have him in the first round a lot, so we're going to try that today. And yeah, that would be interesting. For the Buffalo Bills, I still don't love our options at edge rusher for Buffalo. Bradley Chubb, great, but I think edge rusher is always one of those positions similar to corner where you're going to need depth down the line and you're going to have injuries at this position. Cassius Howell, we're going to get him in the first round today. And man, Buffalo's pass rush could look quite a bit different if you get Cassius Howell going and he's able to produce at the NFL level. It's going to be interesting. He's got shorter arms, but I think that's a fun option if you're the Buffalo Bills. Kenyon Sadiq's still on the board, by the way. It's just, I can't really find a fit for him now that he's kind of slipped past all these guys. And again, we're not capable of doing trades here. So, I don't know where Kenyon Sadiq's going to end up going this mock draft, I'm not going to lie. For San Francisco, there's definitely a few areas here. Like, edge rusher is definitely potentially one of them. Maybe if you like TJ Parker, it's not too far off the board. But I mentioned how tackles are just coming off the board a lot earlier than we see them actually ranked usually. And Blake Miller here is going to be the pick. They do need help at tackle. Even like regardless of what happens with the Trent Williams situation, adding Blake Miller here to a team who doesn't have a lot of holes on that roster. Yeah, Brock Purdy is going to need some help with the pass protection. So the Houston Texans, Kenyon Sadiq, it's not it's not too far impossible. Uh, Dalton Schultz is a good tight end, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of have a tough time arguing why you would take Kenny Sadiq, especially when you have quite a few picks on day two to address tight end if for some reason that's an area of concern, because you did extend Dalton Schultz, excuse me. So yeah, we're gonna go with Caleb Banks instead, who could end up being a really good defensive interior. Who he was productive in college. He's got the foot injury concerns. Other than that, I think Caleb Banks is kind of an intriguing prospect to look at. For Kansas City Chiefs here, there's some guys who have fallen, as you guys can tell. You got Kenyon Sadiq still, Jordan Tyson. Those are the two big ones, really. I'm going to go with Jordan Tyson. If he falls to you, because we did take Mansour Delane with 9th overall, Jordan Tyson would literally be like a perfect fit in Kansas City potentially. I mean, could you imagine Patrick Mahomes to Jordan Tyson? That would just be amazing. He could be their actual true wide receiver one that they've been needing, and it's not like they haven't been successful without it, but boy would that make Mahomes' job easier. If Jordan Tyson can stay on the field, just be one of those guys in the NFL, because they really don't have that receiver right now. When you look at their depth chart, I mean, Rashee Rice is the closest thing to that, and he's kind of had his off the field issues that keep him from playing. Jordan Tyson with his injury issues, that's a concern as well. But we're gonna try that today, just because of the potential that sits there. For the Miami Dolphins, we went with Dylan Thieneman. Okay, so yeah, I'd like to go receiver here. You really got to help out Malik Willis after you sign him and trade away his wide receiver one in Jalen Waddle. I think your best option here is Omar Cooper. I just really like Omar Cooper. He's a fun guy, and it seems like he can probably play a lot of roles. Maybe he sticks to that slot position in the NFL. But regardless, I mean, you're taking him at 30th overall. Is he a true wide receiver one? Maybe not, but Omar Cooper, just a guy I really like, and a target Malik Willis could potentially use quite a bit. Just 2 picks remain here in the first round, and I'm not gonna lie, it just doesn't look like Kenny Sadiq's gonna come off the board today. That's unfortunate. He's absolutely a round 1 player. Don't get things twisted. The only reason he's not coming off the board here is because, like I said, I'm incapable of doing trades with this PFF without the subscription, and there's honestly not a lot of teams who I think are looking to draft a tight end here. Like, especially not a first round tight end. There's definitely a lot of teams who would go after some fun tight ends in this class, like Eli Stowers, Max Clare, Sam Roush, Michael Trigg. There's definitely some intriguing options here at tight end that'll go on day 2. But as for round 1 goes, again, there's just not many teams. I really only look at Rams is possible just because people are saying it a lot. Maybe the Dolphins with the Panthers, obviously. Eagles, but I think they're bringing back Goddard, and there's just not a lot of teams who I think are that needy for a tight end. So he could fall, but I don't think he will. I think we're more likely to see someone trade up for him. But we don't know. We'll see. Let's talk about the Patriots, though. I think I like going edge rusher here. I think if you're going to take a tackle, you probably want to trade up for one. Caden Proctor, it's possible, but it just doesn't make as much sense to me as adding a guy like TJ Parker, who can become a game changer for that defense and really be a good player if he develops into what his potential is. TJ Parker, a bit of a raw prospect right now, but on the upside, he's got great size and he can become an elite edge rusher. I think TJ Parker showed production a little bit earlier in his career at Clemson and had a bit of a down year last year, but despite that, still has the size, and he's shown that he can be a great player. So we'll see what we get out of TJ Parker. 31, if you're going to hit him at 31st overall, I think that's great value. He could end up being a lot better player than that. Like I said, he's just raw and needs a little bit of development. As for the Seattle Seahawks, I don't hate edge rusher here either. I mean, I think last time we ended up going with Cisse. It was either Cisse or Hood, but I still wouldn't hate that, especially Seahawks needing some replacements in the secondary. Thing is, so do you like Zion Young or do you like the replacements in the cornerback room, or do you like AJ Halsey? I don't like AJ Halsey first round. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. I'll probably go corner just because when you pick again at, I guess, 64th overall or whatever, there's still going to be, like Derek Moore. I think he's going to be on the board, and that would be a really good pick. Dennis Sutton, Joshua Josephs, those guys might end up being there, even R. Mason Thomas potentially. So whichever one of those guys is going to be there, I imagine it's going to be at least one of them. Whereas corner, it's hard to say some of these guys will be around still by the end of the second round. But yeah, I think it just makes a little bit more sense to take one of these, either Colton Hood or Brandon Cisse. D'Angelo Pons, I like him pretty much just as much. He's just a little bit smaller. There's not much drop off at corner either. I pretty much like all of these guys from Igbinosun to Colton Hood. I don't hate Chandler Rivers either, but there's a lot of corners. I think edge rushers are just a little bit deeper though. Arguably, they're both pretty deep position classes. Regardless, I think today, just to get him in the first round, actually, we're going to go Zion Young. I do like Zion Young quite a bit. I think he's a fun prospect. He has really good size. Seahawks probably need help at corner, maybe a little bit more. So you could argue that. But again, the corner class is deep enough to where, when you come back around second round, I think you're going to get a good corner, such as, a Keontae Scott or maybe a Traden Stukes. So, yeah, I don't mind that. Zion Young, probably a better pass rusher too than what you're going to find at 64th overall. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today's first round mock draft. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you would do differently, what you like, what you don't like. Doesn't really matter to me. Express yourselves in the comments. Would love that. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week for another mock draft. Hopefully we'll add another round or two eventually before the draft. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't like making these videos too long, and naturally having to kind of talk about 32 teams and 32 players is going to take a bit longer. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this one. I'll see you guys next week.